Hello and welcome to Console Shock, episode 69, Retro Modern Gaming Chat with me, Trev and Stu. How's it going, Stu?
Hi Trev, yeah, going well. The football season started, I'm all excited about that.
It's just not exactly the sort of football season we would have wanted though, is it really?
No, there's not much atmosphere in the stadiums at the moment, to be fair.
Apart from awful FIFA piped in. It's like, what I think is like, when there's a controversial decision, are they allowed to do a boo sound, or is that, you know, because obviously that's just the opinion of the person pressing the button to activate the sound, you know?
I don't know, but, you know, I love it when they quite, you know, sort of get it a bit wrong and sort of adds to the games, to the atmosphere, and you're like, why are they all cheering? What's happened? And what have they seen that I haven't? And but I've actually
too weird looking at an empty stadium and there's this weird crowd noise. The crowd noise isn't great in actual FIFA anyway. It still sounds very fake. Not it's a video game, it's fake, but you know what I mean. It's like not very immersive, I don't think. So yeah,
not really. I actually enjoyed having no sound. Well, no crowd sound at all, because then you could hear the players and you could sort of almost sort of hear them sort of communicating and things like that. And I actually found that sort of quite interesting.
Because like being at a Rayman League game or something.
Exactly, like watching Dulwich Hamlet or something.
Tooting and Mitcham.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So you want to go bust, didn't they, or something?
Oh, don't.
Yeah, we don't really want to bore people, do we, with the shenanigans of non-league football.
They're going to have a cracking season.
I used to play as them in a Premier Manager on the Amiga, you know, Dover.
Did you?
Yeah, they were in the. I think they were in the conference.
You fancy the challenge?
Yeah, I think I put a cheat in, so I got the best team. We just got into the Premier League and won the whole thing. So defeats the point a bit, though, isn't it? That.
Yeah. No fun without a cheat. With a cheat.
Well, we have a returning guest, Stu, don't we? He's been on a few times now.
Yeah.
We're getting sick of us asking him all the time to pop back up. Well, who we have today, and we're very happy to have him back on. It's Dan Wood. How's it going, Dan?
Hey guys, I never get sick of being asked to come on this show. It's always fun.
We're very happy that you're able to come on. I tend to sort of harass you on Facebook and sort of, you know, I think I've just broken your spirit. You're like, yeah, fine, I'll go on.
Gives me something to do at the moment. I mean, we were talking about last time I was on was 6 months ago. Obviously, the world's changed quite a bit in that time.
That's literally like bang on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like when everything kicked off. So yeah, that's so weird. If anything, it's easier, isn't it, to do this stuff now? It's kind of COVID-proof, isn't it? This sort of podcasting lark.
Yeah, we're all pros at like Zoom and everything now, aren't we? And
exactly.
Skype.
It's like having a boom time, isn't it? Zoom having a boom time. So Dan, Stu has actually got some questions he wanted to fire at you to warm us up, because there's a lot been going on in your side of things.
Yeah. So I just went onto your YouTube channel earlier on, and obviously you do some. I think, do you find you're more well known for the Retro Hour or sort of the Dan Wood YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. The kind of generally, you know, if I meet someone who listens to the podcast, they watch me on YouTube as well.
Yeah,
I generally do find there's, you know, a very big crossover, because I think, you know, that was probably the way that we initially got the audience on the podcast. It was kind of filtered through our YouTube channels. So
yeah, I think I watched YouTube first. Yeah,
that's the way most people did it. Yeah. So I think, you know, I think I'd probably say that pretty much everyone that listens to the podcast probably watches the YouTube channel as well, but not the other way around. So yeah, probably more YouTube, I guess.
Yeah. So I just want to say, well done. You're nearly at 50,000 subs. I think you're a few hundred away, sort of something like that. So that's a huge achievement for you know, someone who sort of does, you know, very good videos, but sort of quite niche videos about the Amiga and sort of the old Mac systems and things like that. So honestly, thumbs up for the, you know, the things you're doing for the sort of the community and everything like that. I think that's absolutely amazing. And you know what I like about your videos is they're not. I don't know. There's lots of people that do sort of like a video, you know, 3 times a week. Oh, I'll do Tuesday, Wednesday, and then one on Friday. But I think yours seem to be sort of once a month, maybe every 3 weeks, or maybe a little bit longer. And you actually put a lot of effort into them. And
yeah, it's just because I think because I'm too lazy to churn them out quickly. I think.
I wasn't getting at that. That wasn't what I meant. But...
No, I really appreciate that. Like you said, I mean, yeah, I'm looking now. I think I'm about 250 away from 50,000. I only realised the other day, actually, I was getting close to that now, which is pretty crazy. So I think at the start of the year, I hit around 30,000 back in January. So I'm kind of nearly double the audience on there this year. And it took me about 12 years to get to the 30,000. So the fact that it's nearly doubled in yeah, so I think maybe it's just because people have got more time at home and more people are watching YouTube at the moment. But it's the summer's definitely been a good one for the channel.
Do you get one of those little plaques? Those little plaques that they plaque that they send to people. Is that like 1 million or something now, or
100,000? I think.
Yeah. So I've got a bit of a way to go to get there.
You will, don't worry.
That. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can do the famous unboxing video that everyone does, and sort of, here you go.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. So obviously, talking about the retro hour, who obviously I don't want to. I've sort of worded the question. I guess is I don't want to say who's your best guest, but who's the most interesting guest that you've had on there. And I mean, quite recently, I think ones that I've enjoyed have been Dominic Diamond. I thought that was a smashing interview. And he had Jazz Rignall, and actually I was listening to earlier on today on my way into work was the guys from My Life in Gaming, and me and Trev watch that channel quite religiously. And so who's your most interesting not character but guest you've had on the sort of retro hour show?
Well, I think I'm with you. I mean, I really enjoyed doing the Dominic Diamond interview and Jazz Rignall as well. I really like. I mean, you think when we were kids, like watching shows like that and reading magazines, they were like, rock stars to us, weren't they? The guys on those shows and stuff.
Exactly.
So, and Dominic, he was a long-term project. I mean, I think Dominic was one of the first people that we ever contacted when we started the show about 5 years ago. And every now and then we'd drop him a little message. And initially he was like, I don't talk about that stuff anymore. Yeah. He moved on. He moved to Canada. He was doing the radio show we did out there, and he just kind of completely.
He did play games, didn't he? He was actually a gamer. He wasn't just like brought in randomly for Games Master.
Yeah, but I think he probably talked about it that much. And to us, it was an amazing show. But I guess to him, it was just a job he did 30 years ago, nearly now. So it's So he kind of left it in the past. But then we just kind of got lucky with that again, because we hadn't spoken to him for about a year. Then I think the day that Ravi actually messaged him, he'd actually just left his job on the radio, so he had some free time. And he just started the Twitch thing around then. So literally we just hit it at the right time, and he went, all right, you guys have been nagging me for years. I think, again, just to get rid of us, really, I'll do it. And he's done a handful of them since, but he said he wasn't going to do more than about 3 or 4 about Games Master then, that's it. And we were lucky to get the first one. I mean, I really enjoyed that. I was just fanboying all the way through that interview. That was incredible.
You've got to get to Fletcher now.
Yeah. That's the thing. And there's a lot of stuff like, the stories of him, quitting Series 3. Those kind of tales that we've all heard about. It was good to get some clarity and actually find out the truth behind it from him. So,
I love the story. I think he had it about David Williams and Matt Lucas, and he I think he really fell out with them.
Yeah, that was because I've actually seen that clip. It's when he did that late night show on cable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And David Williams came on and he was acting really irritating with Matt Lucas, and apparently he like punched him in the hallway after the show. Apparently, and they haven't spoken since. And that was like over 20 years ago now. And I love the story. My favorite moment, I think, in the interview was when he was talking about the fact that he only ever met Patrick Moore once in the whole time that they did Games Master. And that was on the very last episode.
Absolutely unbelievable.
And they talked about cricket.
Well, at least we got to talk with him, so
So did Patrick Moore just literally come in on a Wednesday, and they filmed everything else on a Thursday, and he would just literally read out these, press up, down, left, right, and then jump over here, and that's how you get your level select cheat or something, and just didn't have a clue what he was reading.
Yeah. That's exactly how Dominic described it. He said, he actually said he thinks that Patrick Moore was the only person on the show who understood less about what was going on than he did. So, literally, Patrick could just go in a booth, he'd record whatever they told him to say. Normally, I think he said he came in and did it like, an hour once a week or something, or once a month, and that was it. So
it's funny because, like, thinking about, like, video game shows, I think that's probably about the only one, certainly in the UK, that got it right. And that's probably why it's still thought of so fondly, I think, Games Master. I mean, I used to like Games World on Sky as well. I used to watch that, mainly because it was every day it was on, which was like mind-blowing as a kid that we had a video game show every day. But I think actually my favourite is out of the guests that you've had. I really enjoyed listening to Stuart Chaffee or Chaffee.
Yeah, Computer Chronicles.
Yeah, because the interesting thing about the Computer Chronicles is, I mean, we obviously had various sort of shows on and off that were general computer technology shows. Often they're either very low profile and on very late at night, or they just wasn't. We didn't really have a consistent single show that was there from like the 70s or the very early 80s all the way up to the 2000, 2001, 2002. I don't think we really had anything like that. We had magazines that kind of covered that span of time, but not a TV show. So it's really interesting because I think I discovered the Computer Chronicles many years ago on YouTube, and I just went nuts like watching. Like there was some channel that had every episode uploaded. I just went nuts watching them all. It was just amazing seeing the computers that we know and are very fond of when they're seeing them being announced, and marketers there would then be on the show and they would try to go over the specs, and Stuart would ask questions about, well, how do you do this? What do you do? And it's just amazing to just have a TV show that literally spans that all of the sort of golden ages, all the various ages of computing. Really, I mean, was he difficult to get on the show, being obviously America based? And
no, again, I mean, I think it was just one that we. I think again, it was Revy. He actually gets most of our guests. He does the legwork. He'd actually just reached out to him on Twitter and said, would we do the show? Would you be interested in coming on? He was like, yeah, sure. Because we'd actually seen, I think Leo Laporte did an episode of Triangulation with him, and that was the first like kind of modern interview I'd seen with him, and that was kind of maybe a few months before we did it, but it was I think it was only about half an hour interview, and it was really rushed, and I think Leo wasn't really letting him talk much. He was like moving through it really quickly, and I remember watching that thinking, I'd love to find out this, I'd love to find out that. So when we actually got him on, because I mean, like you were saying, Trev, it's a show that I think I've probably watched every episode on YouTube over the years. It's you can just put in like Computer Chronicles episodes 1990 and even playing in the background, and it kind of charts like it is a history of personal computing, isn't it, from like nearly the earliest days to the 21st century. So it's incredible watching it, how it changes and grows.
I mean, obviously your podcast is does extremely well. Do you get sort of almost sort of celebrities, gaming celebrities, actually come to you and say, Dan, Ravi, I'd love to be on your show. Do you find that sort of that'd be amazing. Yeah,
we do. I mean, we get emails of people like, I used to work for like Bullfrog back in the day. Would you be interested in having me on? And sending us links to the website. So since the show's become more popular, most of our guests we find ourselves. Yeah. There's the odd one who like approach us, which is quite nice.
Whereas I just harass YouTubers on Facebook.
Is there a funny story that where you've got someone who they once worked in a I don't know, GameStop for 6 months, and they are a game tester for a week or something, and they want to be a guest that keep on hassling?
We do get some people like that, like, can I come on your show? Here's my YouTube channel, and they got like no videos and 3 subscribers or something. You have to be gentle and be like, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, sorry, bro.
Yeah.
Kind of just touching on Games Master again. You obviously had Dave Perry on a couple of years. Yeah, obviously the non-Earthworm Jim Dave Perry. So obviously you asked him about Games Master. Were you a bit nervous about how he might react? Because obviously the one thing people seem to remember now is him falling off the side of the slide on Mario 64 and then claiming that he didn't play it enough or something. Was that a touchy thing to touch upon, or was he really chilled out? How did you find that going?
That was an interesting one, because I think we did Dave's first podcast interview when we got hold of him. So obviously he runs a tattoo studio now. And I think one of us found him on Facebook, probably Ravi, found him on Facebook, and we just got in touch with him and said, look, we do this podcast, we're big fans of Games Master. And he actually said to us, I haven't spoken about this stuff for years, so I'm not sure I can remember that much, was what he initially said. And this was kind of, we had a bit of a chat to him before we did the interview. And he was, a lot of the stuff, like he said he hadn't played a lot of these games for like 25 years. And he kind of got on a bit out of gaming at that stage. So it was good. Yeah. We did that interview, and then he kind of, not saying that we got him back into gaming or anything, but he did say at the end, I've really enjoyed doing this, and I might dig out some of my consoles again or buy some on eBay, that kind of thing. And obviously now he's doing the YouTube show and everything. But yeah, I mean, I remember watching Games Master, and especially when you watched kind of the later episodes, when he got the Games Animal kind of persona was really established. And he always came across a bit arrogant and that, and we weren't really sure what he was going to be like. But then, as soon as we started talking to him and we realized what a lovely guy he was, I mean, yeah, it was one of the most laid back interviews we've ever done. There was definitely, nothing awkward or nothing we couldn't approach with him. He definitely wasn't hostile in any way. He was, really chilled out, which actually really surprised me, and a pleasant surprise it was.
Yeah, that's good when it turns out like that. Well, sort of touching upon your other content that you put out on your YouTube channel. So obviously you've released a very, very controversial video recently. The battle lines were drawn. There's blood on people's hands on both sides of the argument. Families have broken down because of it. People, like, friendships have been lost. There's like holy wars going on. So
Dan, you call yourself an Amiga fan. That's all I can say. You call yourself an Amiga fan.
Oh, the amount of people that have said that to me over the last couple of days.
So what we're talking about is Dan's really, really awesome, and obviously, a great talking point. Top 5 OSs. So my one thing that I would say is I think you had Leopard as sort of the top Mac OS. I actually prefer Tiger.
I think I chose Tiger. Yeah, Tiger was in my list as well. I'm with you there. Yeah,
I think I wanted it higher up. Probably that's what it is. It is the best, I think, OS for the Mac because it covers the PowerPC and more modern stuff. So what more could you want? But what did you have to really debate what you were going to put at number 1 there, or did you always know how that was going to work out?
I started doing the list probably about 2 weeks ago, and I posted it on a few places, a couple of forums, and there's a Facebook group I'm in, Retro Computer Workstations or something it's called. It's a really good group, and I posted the question in there, and I got something like about 270 replies. So that kind of I looked through them, and I was like, I remember that OS. That kind of brought back some memories of things I might have forgotten. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, I think I rejigged pretty much everything on the list about 4 or 5 times. And yeah, Tiger was on there because again, I'm with you there. I think it was the version of OS 10 that really got it right. It was the first stable one. It was streamlined. The last one that had the classic mode in there as well. The first one that ran on x86 too. So that to me was, that had to be in there. But I think the problem I had was with the ordering. I mean, spoilers, I did put Linux at number 1. But the more I looked at it, even though I'm not a big...
To be honest, that does make sense.
I'm not a Linux user really though. Well, that's what I thought. Then I thought, actually, this device runs Linux, and this thing I've got here's got Linux on it. My TV's got Linux in it, and the more I thought about it, it did make sense that one was there. But I was a bit nervous about putting the list up, and again, getting slated by everyone. But actually, looking through the comments, most of them people are saying, Linux should have been number 1. They agree.
Yeah, it's flexible. It's like it's free for starters, and like. I've used Linux personally, but I could also dip in and out of it. Last time I used it to any degree was I've got a 2012 Mac Mini that we have plugged into our sort of living room TV. It's basically our set-top box for our TV. Yeah. But as the various Mac OS 10 versions have increased, it's just gotten slower and slower. So a couple of times I've sort of thought, I'll just wipe it and I'll put like Linux Mint on it or something. And it has worked, but there's always some niggling thing that I can't get to work that kind of puts me off. And I think the last time I did it, it was the thing that if I put it to sleep, the Mac Mini, and then I turn off my TV, and then the next day I turn my TV back on, and then I wake up the Mac Mini, it won't connect the sound to the TV, and I've got to reset the sound system within Linux via a terminal thing just to be able to get the sound back, and that just got super tedious. Every time I just want to quickly jump on Netflix on the Mac Mini, it's just so annoying. I know you could people will probably roll their eyes here and it's you could just put a script or something, program it to do it. I was I can't be dealing with that, so I ended up just putting I basically put on the Mac OS that it shipped with, which was a lot faster.
You do find that though, don't you? It's like with Linux, my experience in the past is similar, that you spend a hell of a lot of time in the command line and editing config scripts and all that, which for proper techies, I love that kind of thing, but I see why it does put people off.
Exactly, yeah. But it was a really good list. I hope we get more of that from you, Dan. We like those top fives.
Yes, I'm going to do a few more, I think, actually. I've got a few more in the pipeline. My next one's going to be worst OSs, so that'll be interesting.
Top 5 Atari ST games? That's inevitable, isn't it? If you ever turn on, you probably just use it as a footstool, don't you, or something for the for your computer desk. So obviously, a big bit of news that dropped, literally yesterday, although a couple of weeks for people as this podcast will be going out. the PS5, the pricing obviously came out last night. We already had the Xbox Series S and X pricing. I mean, what do you think about the whole PS5, Xbox Series, whatever? Are you going to be putting an order in? What do you think about it? Who do you think's got the advantage at this point? What are your sort of thoughts on the upcoming console war?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've looked at both systems, and I probably will buy both of them. I do like to be in there, early in the console generation.
Yeah.
And then it's something to ask for my birthday and Christmas and stuff, which is coming up in December. I'll just mention that because Mrs. is in the next room. Maybe she can overhear me. But yeah, I mean, at this stage, I initially thought the PlayStation is going to be the platform that I'll probably use most, and it's weird because I always want the PlayStation because it generally has a lot more exclusives than the Xbox. And but weirdly, this generation, I started with the PS4 and I was playing it loads, but now the Xbox One has changed to my primary gaming platform in the last maybe 2 or 3 years. So it's really weird, at the start of a generation, like kind of the horse that you back ends up changing halfway through. I've had that a few times. I was the same with PS3. I got that and I thought that was going to be the system, but then I went to my 360, ended up being the one that I used all the time. So yeah, I mean, at the moment, I intend on getting both of them. I think, obviously the PlayStation 5 will have more exclusives. Hardware-wise, there's not really a lot in them. I think the Xbox looks more powerful, obviously. I'm not going to get like
you could buy both, and you'd still be a lot cheaper than an equivalent gaming PC, by a long way. And
I saw that Microsoft are doing that kind of plan you can buy, where essentially you can get interest-free credit, for obviously a lot of people have been hit hard financially this year. So I think they're doing that way. You can pay it off over 2 years or something for like.
Yeah, I think it winds up cheaper as well. Than paying outright for it, which is insane for a.
I think because you get the Game Pass as well with the Xbox. I mean, for me, I've got Game Pass. I've had it for the last year or so, and it's such a good service because I'm just constantly there's like new games on there all the time. I
bought a physical game for my Xbox because of it. For a long
time. I brought a few sort of older ones, but I've been playing Hot Shot Racing this week. And
is that the new arcade
it looks
on Game Pass.
It's on Game Pass, so
I didn't even realise.
And completely free. You have to pay for Game Pass, but obviously it looks like Virtual Racer. The combination of sort of Outrun in there. It's you bounce around a little bit, but it's an absolute cracking game. So they're not just endless sort of indie 2D.
Streets of Rage 4, obviously as well.
Streets of Rage 4, Resident Evil 7's just come on there.
Flight Simulator on the PC because it's on covers you for PC as well. And now xCloud as well, isn't it? So there's however many games is on that, and EA Play is being added to it. So you probably got. I don't think it's the premium level of EA, whatever it's called at the moment. I'd actually subscribed to it. I don't remember what it's bloody called. So I'm gonna, I'll probably cancel my subscription now because I'm just going to get it with my Xbox Game Pass. But I'm the same as you, Dan. Actually, I bought a PS4 on launch. I pre-ordered it. Because in that for the last generation, obviously we kind of knew what the pricing was like about 6 months beforehand, didn't we?
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like they've had to wait. But I got a PS4, and as the time went by, I kind of ended up transitioning over to the Xbox One. Although I tend to play PC more than any of them. That's what I would say is my main gaming platform these days. But I'll still jump into a console, but mainly because I don't have anything against the PlayStation as such. It's just a Game Pass, really. And it's interesting that we're talking about how the exclusives are a big factor this time around. Remember when the PS4 launched, it was actually the other way around. The Xbox One had quite a few exclusives. It had Rise, which obviously, that wasn't a brilliant game. I liked it, but it was a brilliant game, generally well received. Dead Rising 3. I think what else was on there? I think there was was there another Gears of War then? I can't remember. There was a bunch of exclusives. And the PS4 didn't really have anything. Knack.
I was trying to remember what the name of that game was. I think it was that, and obviously Killzone. I got the Killzone pack on the PS4, and Putty Squad. They were the 3 games I had. Over and over again.
And the Xbox had a load of them. It even had a Forza, or as a Gran Turismo didn't turn up for years on their PS4. But I didn't really care. I just thought, it's cheaper and it's more powerful, so it's an obvious choice. And I got an Xbox One about a year later, and I was able to get a good deal on one. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm going to. I don't think I'll get one on launch, to be honest. I might see.
Do you know what? I don't think you'll be able to. I was trying to get a PS5 pre-order this morning, and
haven't you got to register just with Sony or something? Isn't it? You can't just.
Well, I think they had something you had to do, but this morning it was the web page wouldn't even load up on Amazon, so I had absolutely no chance of getting one. So I might get it. Well, if I can get a pre-order in, I'll get an Xbox Series X, but.
It's a good price, though, isn't it? The PS5, the discless version, 350 quid. The same as the PS4 was on launch, and that's 7 years ago. And it's not like, you're kind of closer to the S than you are in terms of price than the X with the PS5, the discless version. But it's the full fat PS5. You're not getting a cut down graphics chip or RAM or anything. You're just missing out on a disk drive. And I think I could probably live with that. For the nearly 100 quid saving. I mean, what are your thoughts, Dan, on the one to get?
Yeah, I mean, initially my thought was I'm definitely going to get the version with the optical drives on them. Yeah. But then, I mean, looking at the PS5, I know a lot of people don't like the way it looks. I actually think it's quite an interesting design. I think it's quite eye-catching. But the version with the disc does look a bit like a growth on it. So it doesn't really, it kind of ruins the aesthetic of it a little bit. Yeah, but I mean, I've kind of had this thing, for even on the Switch, I went through a stage of buying everything on physical. But then if I'm going away for a weekend or on holiday, trying to bringing them all along and putting them in little case, and then you got the worry of losing them. And I always think, wouldn't it be nice if they were just all on the system? So I'm coming around more to owning kind of digital games rather than. I mean, it does always just feel like you're renting them a little bit, though, doesn't it? When you
It does, yeah, but it depends on the quality of the store as well. Whereas Nintendo Switch Online's the eShop is actually pretty good for sales.
Yeah,
and also you get credit when you buy a game, so you can buy a couple of games, you'll get a quid off your next one, which is really good. So it's easier for me to justify waiting for a game to go on sale on digital and just getting it then. And again, you've got all your games on your SD card, haven't you? You've got to tote around 50 cartridges and. I'm probably a bit more receptive to digital only because I tend to game on PC and have done for the last sort of 6-7 years.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the Steam their games are literally pennies when they do a sale. It's nothing like a console where Sony is like, hey, PlayStation Plus sale, Gran Turismo now only 59 quid instead of 65 or something. So it's like, I think I'll just go to CEX and get the disc for a tenner.
Yeah, but even then, when you get like a new game on disc, all you're doing, I mean, literally, if all they have on now is a little bit of code just to get it to download off the Xbox store or something, isn't it? It's not actually much on the disc.
The argument of at least I'll have the disc, but we talked before, Stu, on a previous show about this whole thing, but I got like Metal Gear Solid 5 when it came out on PC on DVD. I thought, great, this would be on about 20 DVDs, but it would be a really nice set to have, and, it would be great just to be able to reinstall it if I ever need to. Open up the box, it was one DVD. All it had was Steam, the Steam application. So I just ended up putting the code in, the unlock code, and just downloaded the game. So
it's just an unlock key, isn't it? Yeah.
It was just an unlock key. I mean, at least with Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PC, you did get a really nice set of, I think, 7 DVDs. That had most of the game on it. You still have to download about a gig, but that's compared to 50 odd gig that you would have had to have got, without these DVDs. And it was a nice kind of DVD set box with, which was really cool. But I don't think
that is one thing I hate about modern gaming, though. Like the other day, my missus was getting ready in my room, and I had like my Xbox on, and I was playing a bit of Call of Duty, Modern Warfare with my brother for a bit. He went offline. I thought, I'll play something I haven't played for a while. Every game I clicked on needed an update.
Yeah,
and it was all like,
right up.
Yeah, there's no like pick up and play. So in the end, I just went and got my Switch from the other room. But I mean, if I want to play anything that I hadn't played for, like, even some of them were just 2 weeks ago, or 10 gigabyte update or something. Yeah, it does get annoying.
And it's a bit easier for you to sort of pause, say, I don't want to download the update now, just let me play the game. I think the Nintendo sort of OS is a bit nicer about doing that, isn't it? Whereas the Xbox and PS4 is just like, no, downloading the update, you can't stop it. And also, like, the PlayStation servers are so slow. They're absolutely horrendous. Microsoft are a bit better with that. I guess it's because they're a big software and hardware company, so they've just got the infrastructure, haven't they? Whereas Sony aren't really. They're a general consumer electronics company, so I guess they don't spend as much money on their network infrastructure, maybe as an actual, software company does. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I can't really say who's going to win in the next generation of consoles. I mean, there's presumably a new Switch coming out in a couple of years. That'll be just see what happens there, because they'll need to do it because devs will be less inclined to dial down, settings for the current Switch from a 4K, a game that's a native 4K game. It'll be a lot harder to shoehorn that into the current Switch when we're already struggling to get a PS4 game, a base PS4 game. So I think we'll see some kind of an upgraded Switch. But to be honest, I think out of all the consoles, actually, we're talking about what we play the most. I would say the Switch is the one that I play the most.
Yeah.
Out of the consoles, it's just I kind of feel like I'd rather have a portable version of if the game comes out on multiple systems. I'd rather have the Switch version. Graphics might not be as good, but I better take it to the toilet with me, or on holiday. Try doing that with your PS4 or something.
No, I completely agree. It's like Mortal Kombat 11. I got that on Xbox, but then I bought the Switch version as well. And, but you're like, I hate buying the same game twice. But then I could take it around my brother's house and play it there, or I went away for a week. And the fact that like you said, you can just play it on a plane or a train, and you've got it always with you. I think. Yeah, and the Switch, like we were talking about before, the fact that it hasn't got massive updates and the games are cartridges or they're stored on the SD card. The fact that I generally don't find during the week that I have a lot of time to play games. I might get like the odd hour here or there.
Yeah.
On a weekend, more time. But if I just want to, while the missus is making dinner, if I want to sit down for half an hour and play something, I'll pick the Switch up, bit of Streets of Rage 4 or something like that. It's just easy, isn't it?
Yeah, you're not going to go in and play like Horizon Zero Dawn, where you've got to do something for an hour to achieve the next checkpoint or something, isn't it? Yeah. Do you have some kind of a PC set up for retro gaming so you can dive in on that, or do you just have all your old consoles set up for that sort of thing if you just want to have a very quick, nice retro gaming, period or something?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got like a Windows 98 PC in here, if I want to do kind of DOS gaming, that kind of thing. And I've got an Amiga CD32 with the Terrible Fire and pretty much every Amiga game on an SD card. And that's
probably the best way, isn't it, to do kind of couch Amiga gaming? Really, is the CD32? I would say now.
Yeah, because you can put that the expansion in there, and they're not that expensive. And then you can also play CD-based games as well. You can play all the AGA games or the OCS games. So you can pretty much play every Amiga game, really, the setup I've got. So if I want a quick blast of an Amiga game, that's generally the setup that I use. I've got my PS1 set up in my room as well, because I've been playing that quite a bit recently. And then I've got like a modern PC. But to be fair, because I've got my Xbox One set up in here as well, I generally game more on the Xbox than I do the PC. I'm not even though my PC is capable of gaming, it's an i7 machine with a decent graphics card. Because I work on it a lot, I generally want to get away from that when I'm playing games.
And it's, you're not necessarily as easy as just slapping a disc in an Xbox, is it? If you want to fire up a game. Well, that actually leads us in nicely to sort of the content or the subject that we want to kind of cover. So we're thinking of, what are our top 3 video gaming platforms? So that obviously by platforms, it could be a console or it could be a computer, so it could be either. So what are our top 3? So that goes back to, could be a modern platform, could be an old one, something we grew up with perhaps that we're fond of, or maybe there's something recent that's come in that's completely blown us away. So we would like to start off with you on that, Dan, but before we hit what your number 3 is, we would like to try and guess. We're going to try and guess what your number 3 is. So are you up for that, Dan? You're going to think it's pretty funny when we're probably going to be off the mark with this one.
Let's see how predictable I am.
Yeah. So, Stu, do you want to have a go at number 3 and see what do you think Dan's number 3 is?
I think his number 1. Hopefully, I've got it right, but
let's not jump to number 1 just yet.
No, but I'm worried that his number 1 might be his number 3. That's what I'm worried about. So
right, interesting.
I want to go down the route of something like a Mega Drive, maybe.
Okay.
So I think I might be. I kind of feel like probably a 16-bit console. Or it could be. I'm not against actually having different sort of generations of a particular console or a particular line of or a particular platform, I'm not opposed to including that more than once. You know what? Actually, no, I'm going to go a different way. I'm going to say the Dreamcast.
Interesting.
So, Dan, what is your number 3 gaming platform of all time?
Well, I do love the Mega Drive and I do love the Dreamcast, but my number 3 is Xbox 360.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Good choice.
So
I went with this because kind of thinking about consoles that have shaped my life.
Yeah.
The 360 was the system that kind of reintroduced me to video games.
Cool.
Because I had quite a break when I went away to university and, got into DJing and girls and alcohol and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Took a break for a few years from gaming. And then I moved to Bristol because I got a new job. And this was 2007. And the girl I was with at the time, we broke up. And I ended up, I was living on my own for a while. I didn't have many mates, new town. And I was walking down the high street and I went past Game Station. And I saw a 360, secondhand in the window. And I thought, I haven't played, games for a while. That'd be cool to play on. So I bought it and then just completely fell in love with gaming again because of the Xbox 360.
Oh, wow.
And it was my first real experience. I mean, I'd played online games at other people's houses and all that, but it was really the first system that I did regular online gaming with. And because I've actually moved from Leeds to Bristol, but because my best friend in Leeds, he actually got a 360 at the same time. And then my brother bought one as well. And then every, couple of nights a week, we'd all get together, have a virtual beer together, and we'd all play online games. And it really, when I moved to a new place and didn't really know anyone, it was kind of a lifeline to my friends. So the fact that I could actually sit down and have a video game across the country and have a chat to my mates on the headset, and it just really, I can thank the Xbox 360 for pretty much everything that I do now in terms of technology and gaming. I wouldn't have started YouTube without it. I wouldn't have been doing the podcast I'm doing, because I'd literally just kind of got out of computers and gaming until I rediscovered it through that. So it was a really influential system for me.
That's cool. I mean, it's funny you sort of you're emphasizing the sort of online gaming aspect of it, because I think the 360 was the first time it really became mainstream. Obviously, people will talk about the Dreamcast sort of pioneering it, where you could even argue the Saturn, and there's been other quirky 90s versions of it. But I think, and the first Xbox Live on the original Xbox, but I think the 360 was where it became ubiquitous because the networking features were built in, and by that time everyone had pretty good internet, certainly in this country. So I think that was the reason why it's become a standard now, isn't it, online gaming? And it's kind of, you could almost say it maybe put us on a bit of a slippery slope of microtransactions and all the always online content and stuff. But that was in the 360 was in that nice sweet spot when it was just about getting a bit of maybe free DLC or playing online, or maybe really you could buy DLC where it was actually adding single player content like Grand Theft Auto 4 and stuff. So and
I think because the fact that it was on sale for such a long time as well, we had that. It was like 2005 to like 2013, wasn't it? Till the next generation came along, and we had all those weird editions. I mean, I remember buying a Kinect on launch day for like 80 quid and using it like twice. And I remember buying the HD DVD drive, thinking, "Oh, this is going to win over Blu-ray." There's a lot of wrongs with it, but it got a lot right.
Gave you a few more USB ports. The HD DVD drives always good. Isn't it? Right, so Stu, what would you say is your number 3 of all time?
My number 3 of all time, it's got to be the Sega Saturn.
Nice.
Cool.
It just
why?
I like the sort of combination of sort of Japanese sort of 2D shooters. There's some cracking ones on there, which I've never been any good at them, but I just love the way they all look and things like that. It's such a niche machine. In all honesty, I probably played the PlayStation 1 a lot more than the Sega Saturn, but it's just something I like about it. It's a real sort of 2D sort of powerhouse, and so it's the Sega Saturn.
It's funny actually, Stu, because for me, I was like a complete Sega Saturn fanboy. I was actually baffled why is everyone getting PlayStations? Doesn't everybody want to play Sega?
They're crazy.
Racing. It was like, So I was going around school telling everybody, what are you doing, shaking them. People that had Mega Drives, and they just kind of, didn't really, where's the loyalty with these guys? But I remember I got an N64 first in that generation. Then I got a Saturn. My dad picked one up from Cash Converters a few months later. This is like in early '98, so it was dying at this point. On its last few months of viability, really. I think there's only like a couple of PAL games came out in '98 for the Saturn. But because it was cheap, it was like I think they got them for about 40 quid or something. They were just getting rid of them like mad in Cash Converters, and there was already a ton of cheap games at that point. I mean, God, we're looking at now, it's like 25 odd years it's been out for. But no, that was just 3 years down the line from it being out, which is kind of crazy. And I remember I got a whole stack of games straight away. I only had like 2 or 3 N64 games because they were so expensive. And so I just ended up just playing the Saturn tons after that. I kind of dropped the N64. I had all these amazing Sega arcade games and, a lot of multi-platform games that didn't come out on the N64. There was a Saturn version, especially those ones from sort of 96, 97, Wipeout, Tomb Raider and all of that. I was able to play those for super cheap. And yeah, it was just an amazing platform. And obviously it's very expensive to collect for now. Luckily, I kind of went through and picked up as many cheap games as I could in the early 2000s when they were still sort of 2 or 3 quid. So I mean, I remember I got Wipeout on the Saturn for literally £3. I think the label's still on the box. Now on eBay, it's like 20 quid. That's not
easily,
mega expensive, but that's still quite a big jump. Dan, have you got any fond memories of the Saturn?
Yeah, I mean, the Saturn, I remember it coming out, and my brother had a Mega Drive at the time, and we were kind of umming and erring about, kind of the next system to get. We looked at the Saturn, and I didn't know anyone that had one back in the day. I mean, I've got a Saturn myself now, and I think it's a great platform, but I didn't really have a lot of exposure to it when it was a new system, apart from, seeing it very vaguely on, Bad Influence and that on TV. Yeah. Show it for a couple of weeks before it was evident that it wasn't going to be quite the success that the Mega Drive was. But I do think it's a great system. But yeah, in terms of kind of fondness for me, it doesn't have a great deal of nostalgic memories for me.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'm looking forward to is when the Saturn Satiator comes out, which is the little box that you plug into the video card port. And you can stick an SD card in there and you can load all the ISOs, all the game ISOs from that.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, which sounds amazing. You haven't got to mod your Saturn or get rid of the CD drive or anything. But it's still I think it's only shipping out to Kickstarter backers at the moment. So, that's a really cool development. So that was number 3 for everybody. So we're going to, obviously, we're hitting the big guns straight off the bat with just the top 3. So number 2. So obviously we're going to try and guess what Dan's number 2 is. So, Stu, what do you think it could be down?
Well, I reckon he gave it away earlier, and obviously I know what's number 1, but I think the number 2 is actually got to be the PC.
You think
bit of classic PC gaming.
Maybe I think I'll go for.
You're going to say 3DO.
No, I'm not actually. Although there'd be nothing wrong with that. I really like the 3DO. I might try and go for the Mega Drive, actually, because I think, obviously, in the UK, it was a very important system for many people. It was what sort of started to make people drop their home computers, and I have a feeling that maybe Dan would have had that similar experience in that sort of, early 90s. I think I had an Amiga for a few years and thought, I really want to get that Sonic game, really want to play a good version of Street Fighter 2. And all that sort of stuff might have, caused the Mega Drive to shoehorn in there alongside any other systems that we care to mention. So, Dan, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is the Amiga.
Oh wow!
Oh
God, I'm shocked.
Wow.
Yeah, we obviously thought that was going to be number 1.
Of course you did.
I did, yeah. Obviously.
That's blown our minds now.
I mean, it is it was a very close choice between my number 1 and this. But I mean, for me, obviously, the Amiga is a very dear platform to me, and memories of being a kid. And I love the fact that the Amiga just had such a variety of games on there. I mean, I was just thinking then about games that I spent a lot of time with, anything from Lemmings to Cannon Fodder, and then adventure games like Monkey Island and Beneath a Steel Sky, and driving games like Lotus and platformers like Zool and Pinball Dreams and Slam Tilt and all those kind of games, I think. And the fact that the Amiga, I know when I go on forums now, especially from people that didn't live in Europe, you often see it with American retro gamers, like it was full of crap Euro platformers, which is a valid criticism in a way. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at AVGN's video about the CD32, and it gives it a hammering for if you grew up as an NES player, for example, there will be things about the Amiga that you probably don't like. But I think for the impact it had, particularly in the UK, on the games industry, I mean, it kind of, after the Spectrum and the C64 kind of faded away, the Amiga almost single-handedly carried it until like the consoles took over for a couple of years. And, all the studios that came out of it, like, DMA Design, which I've just done an interview today about actually for our podcast, games like Lemmings that have become staples of the UK video game culture and obviously went on to turn into like Rockstar and then Grand Theft Auto, stuff like that all came out of these companies that got their start really on the Amiga. So I think it was just such an influential machine, not only for me, but also for, the UK games industry as a whole.
I mean, there's also like a lot of the demo scene, especially in Europe, ended up, becoming like Remedy. The guys who made like Quantum Break and Control and Max Payne. They were a demo group, I think. I think they finished, I think, who ended up becoming a full blown software house. Ubisoft, although they kind of started a bit earlier than that. But obviously, they cut their teeth, on 16-bit stuff with the Amiga. Electronic Arts. Trip Hawkins went like nuts, trying to get his stuff on the Amiga, and again, that kind of probably helped them along the way to. Where they made more, so they became a bigger success on the Mega Drive. So its influence is massive, and a lot of people don't even know of it, really. And I think that's why it's important where people like us in the UK who do these podcasts and things, I think it's good that the kids that are watching YouTube now about video game history, they're obviously going to get perhaps a lot more American sort of biased view of that, which is basically 80s equals NES. Yeah. And then we all went to the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, when we hit like 1990, when our computer history is completely unique and completely different. And even like in different European countries, it's different. Like the Atari ST and the CPC were the mainstream systems in that same time period. In France and in Germany, the NES was way more popular than the Master System. So it's like, it's a lot more nuanced. I think it's really important that, we kind of, we do it, but we kind of put that out there.
And I think the community around the Amiga was something that I always loved. I mean, I used to go and spend all my pocket money on every magazine I could buy. And, I had like pen pals I'd send like discs to in the post. And, or, eventually all the kids at school eventually got, Amiga 600s and 1200s. And, obviously copy parties were a big part of it as well. But I met a lot of friends through the Amiga as well.
Yeah, I mean, and also like what other computer platform has as many modern upgrades and and to this day. I mean, obviously, people still make little Commodore 64 knickknacks and Spectrum, but I think generally, the Amiga is probably, I would say, number one in terms of vintage kind of platforms that get absolutely tons of peripherals, and entire companies are now just make Amiga, legacy hardware, which is absolutely amazing. The fact we can still get accelerators now. Brand new ones, not like buying a 25-year-old Blizzard accelerator for $1,000 off eBay. Individual computers and obviously the Vampire and things like that. I think it's great, and it's like I think we talked about this probably when last time you were on, Dan. But it's ironic that now we sort of hit the late 90s and we were frantically trying to cram Amiga 1200s into big tower cases. So we could fit all these extra peripherals in, and now we're kind of jamming them back into the wedge cases because all the most powerful accelerators fit inside now. Well, into an Amiga 600, you can fit like vampires in that blow away any kind of 90s accelerator. So, it's a great choice. So, Stu, what is your number two?
My number two is the Amiga. There you go.
Oh, wow.
Nice choice.
Two number two Amigas.
Yeah, just, I mean, all the same. I laughed to myself, Dan, when you just mentioned about sort of sending sort of discs off to sort of people that you met on the back of Amiga Power. And that's what I would do, looking for sort of pen pals or whatever and just swapping games. And I remember having sort of so many games and things like that, just sort of copying them with people at school, and it was really, I thought it was such a smashing machine and it really introduced me to. I mean, I always talk about, things like Settlers and obviously the original sort of Sim City and that type of sort of game. I really got into, and for me, it was like that type of game had so much sort of depth to it. Where something like, obviously, Sonic the Hedgehog is a brilliant game, but it's almost sort of very superficial. Where I just love sitting there for hours and hours, just sort of managing all the little things going on these types of games, and then obviously like the football managing games, the great races on there as well, and I didn't get on as well with the European platformers, but overall I absolutely love the Amiga.
Great choice. So for me, number 2, I'm going to put the Sony PlayStation 1.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So the reason that I say the PS1 at number 2 is it's just a freaking awesome console. I mean, to be honest, you can just say that a lot of the figures and facts speak for themselves. I mean, it was the first console to hit 100 million units sold because it was just awesome. It's got a massive library of games. I think, there's over 1,000 PAL games. I think it's like 1,200 and something or 1,300 and something. Obviously, a fair bit of shovelware, but, there's a big war between, a lot of people tend to call it N64 v PlayStation, but as much as I like the N64, I don't think there's any contest. I think the PlayStation is better. Yeah. I got a PlayStation after I got an N64, and obviously, I mentioned that I got a Saturn as well afterwards, and I kind of dropped the N64. I would still dip in and out of the N64 for the odd sort of big AAA Nintendo game that would come out. But the PlayStation, I mean, I've got into arguments with N64 fans about, but the N64 has all those amazing games. But I'm like, the amount of amazing games on the PS1 is triple the N64. And there's some, like, games that just couldn't be done on the N64. I mean, Metal Gear Solid, I mean, they squeezed Resident Evil 2 down into a cartridge, but I really don't think you could have done that with Metal Gear Solid. Unless all the voice samples would have had to have been done at like 1 kilohertz or something to be able to squeeze all that dialogue into a cartridge. But it's just like, I mean, for me, it was well priced. You could pick up around the time the N64 was around. The PS1 was like £100. The games you could get, for the cost of one N64 game, you could get 4 or 5 PlayStation 1 games, and they'd all be brilliant beat 'em ups. The Tekken series, even 2D fighters like Street Fighter Alpha, Dead or Alive, Bloody Roar, Soul Blade. I could name a ton of them more. Obviously, Metal Gear Solid I've already mentioned. Love that game. Racing games, brilliant arcade races. You've got Ridge Racer, the whole Ridge Racer series. You've got Gran Turismo 1 and 2, of course, if you want the more simulator side of things. Amongst a ton of like Wipeout and Wipeout 2097 and Wipeout 3, or as Stu calls it, Whip 3 Out.
It is Whip 3 Out. It says it Whip 3 Out.
Yeah,
on it, Whip 3 Out.
Whip it does literally say it. And other genres as well. Like football games. Obviously, I'm a big football fan, so it had like some of the best football games of that generation. International Superstar Soccer, was brilliant. And then, ISS Pro Evolution is probably where it peaked on the PS1. And you also had the FIFA series started to really come into its own when it sort of got into 98, 99, 2000. Great games. Other sports games were brilliant as well. And it's just amazing. 2D games were still prominent. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I love that game. Rayman, the original 2D platformer.
That's too hard.
It's just it's annoyingly hard. But yeah, it's a great game. Rayman 2 got a port on the PS1 actually, which is quite good. A lot of people don't realise it got a port of that. And yeah, I mean, it's just like I could go on Resident Evil, Time Crisis light gun games. It's every single genre you could imagine has a really good game on the PS1. And titles that other consoles just didn't get because they didn't have the library that are hidden gems. So I could go on for ages. Obviously, the controller was brilliant when it became the DualShock. I mean, Sony, come on, they stuck with that design from 1994 all the way up to 2013 with the PS4. So pushing like 20 years with one design. Pioneered the dual stick layout. I know everybody kind of tends to just talk about the 360 padders or the original Xbox pad, but it had the offset sticks, and that's what everybody likes now. But it's really just the idea of two sticks generally. Even like Alien Resurrection, the game on the PS1, was the first game to pioneer two sticks in a first-person shooter. So yeah, and also the CD format generally. Obviously, there have been games on CD before that. Most of the time, people tried to gimmick them. FMV was apparently the only way you could really make a CD game. Although the PC Engine did a pretty good job with CD games. That was the way you should have done 16-bit CD games, but we didn't get the PC Engine to like they did in Japan. So yeah, made it the default, really, didn't it? The PlayStation. It was just like regular games, really, that were just using the CD format well. Metal Gear Solid, again, a good example of how to use it in a really good way. So yeah, that's my number 2. So I'm worried that I don't want to ask what your guys' opinions are of that, because I have a suspicion PS1 might hover around this next bit that we're going to talk about. So Dan, we've got your number. We've got your. Did we do your number 2, Stu? We did, didn't we?
We've done it. Yeah. The Amiga again.
The Amiga. Yeah. So yes, you both did Amiga. I did PlayStation. So now, we're at number 1 now. So, for me, I can't guess what this might be for you now, Dan, because I thought it would be the Amiga. So
I thought it would be the Amiga as well.
Yeah.
I was just going to base it on your whole YouTube channel is mainly about the Amiga. You talk about the Amiga a lot. I believe you probably said it on your podcast how much you love the Amiga. So
I mentioned it once or twice.
I don't know really where I got that from, but
so he's dedicated his whole channel in Retro Hour to his second favourite platform.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Stu, is Dan's favourite now?
I'm going to say the PC again, or it could be the 3DO, because he made a comment. He sort of made a bit of a noise when I said 3DO, but I'm not sure.
It is an underrated console, isn't it? The 3DO.
It is, yeah.
It's kind of people will lump it in with the Jaguar and the CDI, but it's probably
the Jaguar. It could be that.
Oh my god, that's a really good point.
That's a good one. Yeah, it could be the Jaguar.
I've got a different take on it though. I sort of mentioned that.
Go on. What's your one, Trev?
I wouldn't. I'll let Dan do his one first, but I wouldn't begrudge anybody having multiple versions of the same kind of line of systems. So I think it might be the CD32 is Dan's number 1. As we've already mentioned it as being maybe the best way to play Amiga games these days. Certainly if you want to do it in the living room. So I think it might be the CD32 because it's kind of for that reason, really. So Dan, do you want to end the suspense? We should have a drum roll. I'll probably add one in post. What is your number 1?
Well, I was going to troll you guys by saying the Atari Jaguar, which I do collect for, but it's not my number 1. My number 1. You've kind of said it all, Trev. The PlayStation. The PlayStation 1, I think, is just because every reason you said there. I mean, you think of the influence that had on the video games industry. I mean, it changed gaming. And I was talking before about when, a lot of my mates at school got the Amiga. I also had friends who had Mega Drives and Super Nintendos. But there was a stage where suddenly everybody that I knew got a PlayStation. Yeah. And, it was because they were affordable. Like you said, it was the first system that really took advantage of the CD-ROM format. And also it was that stage when suddenly everything became 3D. I've had companies on my podcast who were like, who kind of went, like the Bitmap Brothers and Sensible, who unfortunately couldn't keep up with it because they didn't have the technology to develop 3D games. But
the death knell, wasn't it, for a lot of those studios?
They literally, you just couldn't get a 2D game commissioned at the time because everybody wanted 3D. And I did a video about the PlayStation recently, and I mentioned in there that really, I think that was when video games grew up, because it was before that, Mario and even Sonic to an extent, it kind of felt like gaming was seen as a bit of a preteen activity. And, if we had mates who were like 16, 17, 18, especially then in the mid-90s when, dance music was massive and they're all getting into clubbing and that, and the PlayStation just seemed to go hand in hand with that kind of era, when trance music was coming through, and Ministry of Sound and Gatecrasher and Cream, and then you go back to your friend's house and you play some PlayStation before or after. It just felt like very much of its time, but also I couldn't think of another system that revolutionized gaming quite like the PlayStation did.
And it's basically set us up for where we are now, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because you could associate Sega obviously helped pave that way a little bit, because I would say Sega managed to pull gaming into kind of the edgy teen years. So sort of the 14, 15-year-old, everything had to have tuned and be really cool and everything. But that's a very a vital point on the journey. And then when the PS1 came out, it kind of gaming got into into its 20s, where it was basically a full-blown adult and didn't have time for childish stuff anymore. That's kind of how I see it. And there was also other little things for me. Like I used to love getting the official PlayStation magazine.
Oh, them demo discs.
Yeah. I mean, I'd go months just playing the demo discs, 2 or 3 months of PlayStation mag. You'd have 20 odd, games that you could, okay, there were demos, but, you could get a lot of gameplay out of the demo before you eventually bought the full thing. So, yeah, little things like that.
And I think, when you're talking about Wipeout before in particular, I remember, hearing that game. So then I was a teenager, I was really into my dance music. And, I remember the soundtrack to 2097, you had Chemical Brothers Underworld on there and Future Sound of London. It was all the music I loved anyway. And the fact that it was now in a video game, it just seemed to go hand in hand with everything I was into at the time.
And even was it Cold Storage? It's the actual Psygnosis dude that did
Tim Wright.
Yeah, those tracks were you could listen to those, outside of playing the game. It was absolutely awesome. Although funny enough, I played it first on the Saturn and Wipeout 2097. They're actually pretty good ports, funny enough. But anyway, that's another discussion. So Stu, you want your number one now? So what is it?
I feel like I'm just copying Dan really, but I'm going with the Xbox 360. It's
number one.
Number one, yeah. Cool. It was such a good machine, and for all the same reasons. And classics like Grand Theft Auto 5 came out on it, and I've always sort of quoted that I almost cancelled my PS4 pre-order. I was like, oh, why do I need one? This game is, phenomenal. It's a huge size, and all the things you can do in it, and it was just an amazing console. And yeah, I used to play it online all the time. A lot of people on there. It was just like everyone had a 360, and absolutely
of its era, really.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was, and I loved trying to get all the achievements. Obviously, I didn't get all of them.
Every single one that's in existence.
Every single one. But I thought that having the achievements, like the Xbox Live, having all your friends on there, and and for someone that used to sort of run a video game shop, and I would also have lots of customers on there, and you actually see what they were playing. So it's actually quite interesting. From everyone's playing Call of Duty, right? Well, let's stock more of them, and it was actually a really sort of useful system to have, and it had its faults. I think we all went through 2 or 3 machines, and it got the 3 red lights. And
you managed to survive that though fairly unscathed, really, didn't
well,
they?
yeah, they came out there and said, yeah, anyone, even if you bought it secondhand, up to 3 years, we'll just send it to us. Send it to Frankfurt, and then within a week to 10 days, you'll have another machine back. And,
how many did you go through?
I went about 3.
5, mine was.
5.
Well, one of them, I sent it off to Frankfurt. I got the box back, opened it, plugged it in, it red ring straight away. Back to Frankfurt again. Yeah.
Oh my god,
that's a pretty typical story, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm on the 360 Reddit forum, and once a month, someone will put on the picture. Oh, here's my 360 from 2005. Oh, it's never red ringed. And you're like, really? Is it still going? It's surely.
As soon as they turn it on, and as soon as they post that, after they turn it, it's going to red ring straight away.
I've got one from 2006 in my cupboard in the other room that I haven't had plugged in for about 10 years, and that was okay.
Right.
So yeah, I'm actually I'm doing a video about the Xbox HD DVD drive. So I want to get it set up for that video. Cool. But yeah, I'm hoping it's still going to work. We'll have to see.
Trouble is with HD DVDs, a lot of them have really bad disc rot. I noticed that. I tried to get a cheap bundle of them from CEX, so half of them wouldn't work. And I'm looking up on LD database, the Laserdisc database, LDDB. There's the HD DVD section has a special like disc susceptible to disc rot, or some like Sony production plant, or like in precisely 2006 did a awful
Toshiba, I imagine.
Toshiba, someone like Sony with Blu-ray, weren't they? God, that's stupid. Whoever it was, they just did an awful batch of discs for a couple of years. So those will just like it's certain films. So if you see them in a bargain bin, just check if they're actually going to work.
Well, I actually went through a stage of just buying HD DVDs when they're actually cheaper than DVDs, when the format failed. So I've got loads of them. I think I picked a lot of them up for like 25 to 50 pence.
Yeah,
so I've got a massive
Yeah, I've got a whole bundle of them that I picked up for that much. You know what? Thinking of it, did I even do my number 3? I went straight to number 2, didn't I? I did PlayStation.
You did one before that, surely?
I can't even remember what I did.
What was
I
number
got a feeling
3,
you
then?
did.
I can't even think what it was. I did PlayStation as number 2. God, I'm having a moment.
Saturn was Saturn number 3.
No,
Saturn was my number 3.
You know what? I don't think I did it. I'm going to do it now. I can tell you what it is. It's the Dreamcast. That's my number 3.
Yeah, you didn't mention that.
I did mention the Dreamcast. So it's my number 3. So number 3, Dreamcast. The first console I had when it came out, because I was old enough to. Well, actually, I got it. I think I saved up birthday money for it, because it was just after in October when the Dreamcast came out in the UK. But we did a whole episode on it with the Dreamcast Junkyard guys, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. You can listen to that episode, listeners, if you want to get the full lowdown. But to be honest, the memory that I probably will say about the Dreamcast it's kind of tragic, because I remember countless times, and I had one other mate, my mate John. Hi, John, if you're listening. Who had a Dreamcast. We used to go around to his house and all play like multiplayer Dreamcast games. We'd have so many mates that would come and play the Dreamcast, and they would love Virtua Tennis, Crazy Taxi, Choo Choo Rocket. And I think these are great games. And then you'd be like, "Oh, you're going to get one?" Then they'd be like, "Nah, I'm going to wait for the PS2." No. Just like, and again, you'd want to shake them. You'd be like, "Just get a Dreamcast. It's awesome." Again, I could point people to the show that we did, dedicated show on the Dreamcast. But Soul Calibur, brilliant game. Love Shenmue. That's one of my all-time favorite games.
Boring.
Sorry, I know it's the Marmite of video games.
Walking simulator.
Pretty much. Bought a capsule toy simulator. Soul Calibur, already said. Crazy Taxi. Tons of Choo Choo Rocket, Quake 3 Arena. Jet Set Radio. Just a ton of unique exclusive games. I mean, a lot of them would appear later on other platforms, but you could get on the internet on it. I used to use the internet a lot on the Dreamcast. I didn't have an expensive PC to be able to do it the normal way you would do it in those days. You could play multiplayer. You could play Choo Choo Rocket online against other people. It felt like it was the console that Sega, the first one they got really right with the marketing and and everything. But I think they had so many misses from their previous, basically going back to the Sega, the Mega CD, really. But I think all of that added up just meant, and of course the success of the PlayStation. Because remember, the PlayStation 1 was still going strong in 99, 2000. It didn't just stop.
The PS1 came out then, didn't it? The smaller model in 2000.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think that had a huge launch, didn't it? Tons of people. I remember people buying that. People already had a PlayStation, regular PlayStation. It was that was a factor, and obviously people just the waiting for the PS2. Although we've argued, Stu, in the past that the PS2 didn't really come into its own until the following Christmas that it came out, when you got the Grand Theft Auto and Metal Gear Solid 2 sort of combo sort of came out in one quick go. But yeah, Dreamcast was my number 3. Already done my number 2, which is the PS1. So Dan, we've got your number 1 now. So Stu, what was yours?
We've done that.
Oh, we've done yours. I'm terrible at this.
Xbox 360.
You want to do it again? Just to go through it all again.
Right, okay. Get ready for it. My number 1 is the Xbox 360. There you go.
I guess you're going to say that.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah.
Good guess. So mine.
No, I do agree with what you said about the Dreamcast as well, though. I think it was just shadow of the PS2 coming, wasn't it? I think. And I remember people buying a PS2 just for the DVD player. And I think, that was really one of the kind of nails in the coffin of the Dreamcast, unfortunately. It was just bad timing, really, wasn't it?
It's kind of stitched up from the start, almost like it was almost doomed from the start, almost regardless of what Sega did. I think, they might have been able to bring it to a soft landing around 2003, 2004, if they carried on supporting it. But, I mean, the Xbox would have been out. I couldn't have seen them bringing out a Dreamcast 2. Really. Perhaps they would have been a bit more proactive in sort of making the Xbox appear as the Dreamcast 2, which it kind of is a spiritual successor in my eyes. But yeah, I'm not sure they could have done anything against Sony. Basically, the Saturn would have had to have been really big for them to have any chance of a following generation of 2 or 3 generations, really. So.
And it's always funny, when we think about the Dreamcast, often people call it a failed platform, but then I talk to so many people, and they're always, it's my favorite system, or it's in my top 5. Pretty much every retro gamer is at least in their top 10 favorite systems. So it's just, I think a lot of people kind of realize what a great platform it was too late. Yeah,
it's like we've said in the past about a lot more people are fond about the N64 than actually owned one.
Yeah,
I think that's the same with the Dreamcast. I think way more people have discovered it in the subsequent years, either through emulators or through YouTubers talking about it, as opposed to, because I used to feel like complete, like I was an evangelist for it, but no one was interested. Everyone just wanted to wait for the PS2. But the PS2 is a great system. We're not taking away from that. It's not in any of our top 3s. I'm just sorry guys, it's not my number 1 if you didn't guess already. But it's just it doesn't have that mystique of the Larry Bundy called it the James Dean of consoles. So I think that kind of suits it fairly well. So my number 1, I'm kind of gone ass backwards to everybody else in this, and that's the Amiga.
Nice.
Basically, because I would say my all-time favourite top 2 games is our Amiga games. Frontier Elite 2 is I'd say number 2 favourite game of all time. God, I've completely ruined the prospect of a top 2 video games of all time episode. And number 1 would be Sensible World of Soccer, and they're both Amiga games. They were Sensible World of Soccer, and Frontier Elite 2, they're both on. I think they both appeared on the PC. And Frontier Elite 2, I think, came out on a lot of things, didn't it? Even the CD32. But they were just I played them on the Amiga 500, which is quite a struggle when you think about Frontier Elite 2 and its polygon-based sort of engine that it's based on. But I just loved it. I think I played any game has sunk as many hours into either of those games as I have Elite 2 and Sensible World of Soccer. And it's just the whole thing surrounding the Amiga. Like, I love picking up Amiga format every month, so much so that I've got a letter printed in the I'm setting myself up for some embarrassment here, but issue 114 of Amiga format, I actually have a letter in there that's really cringy because I was basically a teenager when I wrote it, but it got printed.
What were you talking about?
It was something really lame. Like, I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that the Amigas that were coming out at that point were all kind of going to be tower cases, and everyone was towering them up. To me, an Amiga was a wedge-shaped keyboard. And I was like, I think that's they all look like PCs now, and they're not really like Amigas anymore, which is really silly. Although now, like we said earlier, it's kind of reversing now, isn't it? They're all going back into the wedge-shaped keyboards. But yeah, if anybody wants to laugh, my letter is in Amiga format, September '98, issue 114. But yeah, the magazines, the cover discs, and that would keep you going in between games. Obviously, getting the copied games off your mates. So you then, you end up with a library of, dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of games, which is something you could never realistically do with a console. And for the most part, the games are just as good as your Mega Drive and your Super Nintendo. Sound-wise, I'd argue that the Amiga was better than either of those consoles. It was just an amazing system, and I think the fact that it's still living on today, still having games produced and peripherals made for it. I still play mine. I've got an Amiga 1200 as my sort of the main one that I dig out and play. Still do it on WinUAE as well. Obviously, there's tons of other games like I like a lot of the European platformers. I quite like Super Frog. I like Zork 2. Yeah, They haven't aged as well as the Japanese ones, but at the time I really liked them. Secret of Monkey Island, obviously 1 and 2. Loom was another game I liked.
I love
Lotus. Yeah, it had a walkthrough in the box. Remember that? Actually, I just used that and I completed the whole game.
I'll be honest, I didn't have the box.
Oh, right. I got a few commercial games that I got actually. So I did buy some.
My mate Darren, who I got the game from, he didn't give me the walkthrough.
Didn't photocopy that bit.
He didn't photocopy that. I'll have to speak to him.
Yeah, it came with a walkthrough, and you had to I think they did it because I think it was also part of the copy protection, and you had it was all the text in the in the walkthrough was invisible, and you got a red little film thing that you placed over the text to read the walkthrough. So you couldn't photocopy it to try and get through the copy protection aspect, but it also was a walkthrough. So yeah, because some of those Lucas.
Didn't it come with an audio cassette as well, like a story you listened to before?
I think it did. Yeah. I mean, this was before Monkey Island. I don't think it was a Ron Gilbert. Was it a Ron Gilbert game? I think it was.
No, it was Brian. I forget his surname. We had him on our podcast, actually.
Yeah. It came out on a few things. It came out the PC Engine got a version of Loom, which is really weird. But yeah,
Brian Moriarty. That was it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was a wicked game. Secret Monkey Island, Maniac Mansion, obviously the various Sensible Soccers. Deluxe Paint, the fact you could do so much with it, and that kind of blew my mind as a kid, coming from consoles. Really, I could do your schoolwork on it. Even the games that it came bundled with, I have fond memories of, like Bart versus the Space Mutants. I think I enjoyed the cartoon intro more than the game.
Yeah,
I think I'll just put that on. Lemmings, of course, and all those amazing games. Pinball Dreams, I used to love that. Amazing platform that I still play to this very day and discover new games for it all the time I didn't have then, thanks to Win UAE and everything. So we'll give, as a final thing before we all are finished for the show, we'll give everybody one honourable mention. So I'll kick off just to give you guys a time to come up with something. Although Dan, I'm thinking there's a certain animal-based games console that might be yours. Wrong, but we've already been wrong about what we thought we were going to do, but we'll see. For me, I'm going to give the Sony PSP an honourable mention because I had a period when basically I moved to London in my 20s and I had to live out of a suitcase for a while. So I couldn't have a big console set up. I was living with a couple of mates that I could call my own. So I had my PSP, and to be honest, I didn't miss having a regular kind of home console because the games on it were the first handheld console really where the games were fairly close to their home console versions. You weren't getting baby versions of games like you were with maybe the Game Boy back in the day, where you'd get a completely different game. It might have the same name, but it'd be completely different fundamentally. But with the PSP, it wasn't, and it was just an amazing device. It was like a PSP and PS2 in your pocket graphically. I mean, playing Wipeout for the first time, Wipeout Pure, was absolutely mind-blowing. We've got a dedicated episode on the PSP. And it's just going to be an honourable mention. But yeah, probably my favourite handheld ever, although the Switch is not far behind it at the moment. But I think the Switch or the PSP kind of pioneered the idea of a handheld that, could really do everything that a home console could do. And you could argue is kind of paved the way for the Nintendo Switch, which is just an evolution of that. It made the Game Boy Advance look 20 years, out of date when it came out, and even the DS looked like utter garbage next to a PSP. But more people bought DSs, so what do I know? But yeah, that's my honourable mention. Stu, do you have an honourable mention?
Yeah, I think I sort of remember sort of playing when I was younger. Was, to be honest, the original Game Boy. I absolutely loved that machine.
Cool. That's a good one.
And it was a case of sort of when I had my Amiga and before that, Spectrums and things like that. My real intro into sort of Nintendo and console games, and obviously sort of I guess the magic of Nintendo really was the original Game Boy, and so many fond memories of Super Mario Land, Tetris, Super Mario Land 2, sort of years later when that came out. I remember playing Solar Striker loads, and there were so many sort of good games on it, and it was something that it didn't really matter that it was only some Z80 processor, and it was a a sort of a black and white or 4 different types of green screen. It was.
Yeah, I mean, it was living side by side by like the PlayStation at one point, and still going strong, wasn't it? It was that good.
Yeah, I mean, it went on for years with the Game Boy Color and things.
Yeah,
and I was. It was just at that time when I was much younger. It was an absolutely brilliant machine, and you used to swap games with our friends at school and things like that. So I'd certainly, the Game Boy is my honourable mention.
Great choice. I mean, we've said before that I keep saying we've said this before. We've said a lot of things on this show, but yeah, the Game Boy, I think, basically the first popular Nintendo console in the UK. The NES didn't really make much of an impact, so there were people that had them. I had a NES, but the Game Boy, I think, was the first mass popularity console for Nintendo in the UK. Again, I'm absolutely baffled why they haven't done a Game Boy Mini or Game Boy Classic. It's out of all the Nintendo consoles, it's the one that would be the easiest one for them to do. Just whack out a slightly smaller original Game Boy looking thing with a nice screen, pop 40 games on it, 60 quid. It would absolutely sell way more than either the NES Classic or the SNES Classic. I'd buy one straight away.
Yeah,
and not a tiny weird keychain thing like this stupid Game Gear thing that's coming out in Japan. So you could, it's big enough so you can actually play it. But yeah, great choice, Stu. Great choice. So Dan, hopefully we've given you enough time to dig out an honourable mention. What would be your honourable mention?
Well, don't say the Atari ST.
Well, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say the Jag either, even though I do like the Jag. But I mean, the Jag is a system I collect for because it's a bit naff. Same reason I collect CDI games as well. But I wouldn't put either of them in like my top 10 best systems, really. The one I'm going to pick is actually one that's right in front of me right now, set up next to me with its glorious Tower of Power. I'm going to go for the Mega Drive.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the original Mega Drive. I mean, the Mega Drive, I remember my brother getting the Mega Drive in around 1991, just as Sonic the Hedgehog came out. And we had, some incredible memories playing on that system, Sonic 1, 2, sessions playing Streets of Rage 2. I mean, one of the best multiplayer games ever. Golden Axe on there as well. Best platform for Outrun for a home system as well. I used to love that. Aladdin, memories of playing that in the summer holidays. Dynamite Heady, that was an amazing game. Like Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 on there as well. Just some incredible memories of that system. And the fact that it did get stuff like, the Mega CD came along. And that was the first time that I'd seen, even though, there wasn't many good games in it, it was the first time I'd seen video playing on like a console before. And it did kind of blow my mind. Yeah, it did. I mean, people kind of forget just how impressive that was back then. And, again, the fact that Sonic came along and he made Mario look old and slow, and even the tumor that is a 32X on top of it, it just looked like a beast, that system. And I think the fact that today, I'm looking at my setup in front of me with an EverDrive in the top and a 32 gigabyte SD card in there, and I'm looking around my room at new Mega Drive games that have come out over the last couple of years, and the fact that it was just a really cool system and just so many quality games on the Mega Drive, and I just love the machine.
For me, it's out of the 16-bit consoles, it's my favourite. I've actually, over the years, I went through a period and I thought the Super Nintendo was better. But since I got an EverDrive, really, and I could really go nuts on the library, I think it's just better. Obviously, from a technical point of view, obviously it's not as many colours, but the games are higher resolution anyway. Often you'll get better frame rates. I think a lot of multi-platform games are better on the Mega Drive. Like things like not necessarily like obvious ones that I'll mention, like things like Earthworm Jim. Yeah. I think it's just better on the Mega Drive, and obviously pretty much all the sports games are better because it can handle that amount of sprites on screen. Obviously shoot 'em ups, shmups. It's a genre that isn't really great on the SNES because the CPU is so slow. Obviously, everybody bangs on about Star Fox and the Super FX games, but I think Virtua Racing is brilliant if you really want a 3D polygonal game. It's even got things that just don't exist on the SNES. I mean, when you think about scrolling beat 'em ups, you've basically got Final Fight and maybe something like Batman Forever and things like that. Whereas on the Mega Drive, you've got Golden Axe, which already straight away gives Final Fight a run for its money. You've got the best Final Fight anyway on the Mega Drive with the CD version on Mega CD, and Streets of Rage is better than Final Fight, and you've got all the Streets of Rage. So you covered there. All the Sonic games are awesome. Not as deep as maybe the Mario games, but if a little bit easier just to be able to sit back and just blast through them without really having to think too much. That's what I love about the Sonic games.
And even weird experiences like Echo the Dolphin, it was just a real game, but it was a beautiful game. It was experiences like that you didn't get on other platforms.
Yeah, again, something that doesn't exist on the SNES really, and even like other quirkier things like Herzog Zwei and like Dune 2. There's Mega Drive versions of these, like strategy games, and even like there's even flight simulators. You've got like LHX Attack Chopper, which most people think of as like an Amiga and like PC game, as a decent Mega Drive version of that. There's other flight sims like F-18, F-22 Interceptor. Electronic Arts had a ton of games on there that are strategy games, Populous, and it's just a brilliant platform. And get yourself an EverDrive, and certainly like the later versions, they're a bit pricey, but with the Mega EverDrive Pro, you get all your Mega CD games coming out of the single cartridge. It's got beautiful RGB output as well through the socket that comes built into it. So you don't necessarily have to go nuts trying to, hotwire in all kinds of HDMI mods, although Bob will tell us from Retro RGB if he was on the show, like, don't talk like that. Everyone has to mod triple bypass their Mega Drive. But just a great platform and the best controller. Everyone talks about Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo, but it's bloody awful with a SNES controller. I'm sorry, guys, but you need all six buttons on the face. Definitely agree with you on that one, Dan.
And even getting new stuff like like the Monkey Island limited run games, the edition they did for the Mega CD and Star Wars Rebel Assault. And I'm looking at a list here. I think it's something like over 30 new Mega Drive games have come out this year.
Secret Monkey Island actually did get a Mega CD version.
Recently.
Not too bad. I mean, a lot of people moan about the loading, but again, I'm like, how about you go and dig out the discs from the Amiga version and you play that? Then you'll know about loading, girlfriend. So I'm like, it was a lot worse. And obviously, Mortal Kombat, you got like the blood, and all that stuff. And Mega CD version's really good as well. A lot of people dump on that because you have to wait to load for it to load, but it's still it's really good. So, and you could almost say you've got those additional. Obviously, a lot of people will argue that they're kind of the death knell for the system or for Sega in general, but you've got those quirky like add-ons like the 32X and the Mega CD. That kind of adds to the whole charm and mystique for me. I'd rather have those extra games that those systems brought in than not,
and it's just a cool system, isn't it?
It's just, obviously it doesn't yellow, which is nice as well.
Off on the reset button.
Exactly. Bloody thing. But, you can even, it's backwards compatible. You can play Master System games on it with an adapter, or they just work off the EverDrive. And, you can get a multi-mega, you can get the Nomad. It's got all these quirky little different versions. It's just brilliant. You just got the best of everything in retro gaming with the Mega Drive and all its quirky add-ons. So, definitely agree with that one, Dan. That was an awesome choice. I think that's all of us now. That's all of our top threes, and we even gave you an honourable mention. So it's ended up being a bit of a bumper episode. So thanks, Dan, for
very much.
For joining us, and hopefully we haven't kept you away from your dinner.
Oh, no, really enjoyed it, guys, at any time.
So, Stu, where can you find us?
Right, find us on YouTube, search under Console Shock, Twitter, Console Shock, Facebook page, Console Shock, and then if you search on all the big podcast clients, again, Console Podcast or Console Shock Podcast or Console Shockcast, easy for you to say. But Dan, where can we find you and the Retro Hour?
Well, we've got the podcast. Obviously, new episodes out every Friday. So by the time we're recording this one, in about 3 hours, I'm gonna get anything next.
Wow.
That's so it's any podcast client. Just search for the Retro Hour or our website, theretrohour.com. I think we're doing an interview next week with Ken Williams, friend of Sierra.
Oh, wow.
So that should be an interesting episode. We did one just this week, with Brian Baglow from DMA Designs. So that's going to be this week's episode.
First.
There you go. That's the podcast. And on YouTube, just search Dan Wood and you'll find me on there. I mean, like you said, I'm approaching 50K. So I think I'm going to have to do some kind of celebration Hopefully when I hit 50k, I think it's going to be next week at the current rate. Wow. I'm going to do like maybe a 50k kind of Q&A episode or something. But I've got the Xbox HD DVD video that I'm working on right now, and then we'll do the top 5 or 10 worst operating systems ever. So I'm expecting a bit of hate for that one.
Well, make sure in the HD DVD point people to that lovely LDDB discs that won't work just before everybody starts frantically going nuts on CEX and buying a bunch of posters. So yeah,
good chat.
But yeah, check Dan out on his various channels. He's got some really amazing content. He's basically charting the history of sort of video games, really, certainly with the Retro Hour, and some great content on his YouTube channel. And it'd be great if we could all help out Dan hit that 50k mark. If anybody deserves it, it's certainly Dan with some of the awesome stuff that he has. But thanks again, Dan. We're probably going to get you back on in another few months, and we'll nag you about some other thing. We've probably ruined my top 2 video games, but I'm sure people would love to hear about yours, and maybe Stuart's. I don't really know, but we'll probably be on to you again soon.
Absolutely, guys. And any time at all, it's always a good laugh coming on with you guys. Always enjoy it.
It's always
Thanks
good
very
fun.
Much.
Cheers, guys. So thanks for listening again, everyone, and we shall see you in the next one. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.